This comes with the
Quite a bit.
news, James, that Gotham Knights will only run at 30 frames per second and will offer no performance mode on consoles. As spotted, this comes from IGN, but as spotted by Wario64, the man, the myth, the legend, on Twitter, the news was shared that Gotham Knights executive producer Flana in the game's Discord channel said she wanted to take some time to address this question for console players. So, James, what did Flana's message say?
Said, hello everyone. I know many of you are wondering about the availability of a performance mode for Gotham Knights on consoles. Due to the types of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience in our highly detailed open world, it's not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher FPS. For this reason, our game does not have a performance/quality toggle option and will run at 30 FPS on consoles.
Mm, it hurts you when I read this. I've been rooting for this game for so long.
Yeah, I don't know how this got 99 thumbs ups from the Discord chat.
I think this is an early screenshot. I think it started to trend mostly in the middle
No,
finger emoji.
well, let me let me clarify. Our viewers can't see this right now, but the majority of these emojis are negative. But I am wondering about the 99 thumbs up and who those 99 people are. They're like, yeah, this is good.
Starts with the devs and then people that don't care. They're playing on PC. It's the PC players that don't have to deal with this and stuff. The people that are upset,
Like,
the people that are
fine.
actually playing it on consoles they spent $500 on. When, James, the minimum graphics card for PC to run at over 30 frames is like half the amount of power that a PS5 and an Xbox Series X can handle. So it's very confusing as to why this is happening.
That is very confusing.
It is also $10 extra to buy this. Well, in America at least, the US,
or $10 US.
10 US dollars more for the console version, just because that's the way console games have gone this generation. Not to say that frame rate's the only thing like that.
Yeah, but you expect the reason why everyone was justifying the $70 price tag on next gen consoles is because it's a certain degree of extra polish that goes into it. You'll get a better experience with a higher frame rate and higher graphic fidelity that takes more resources to make.
It's not even that it's running at 4K 30 frames per second at all times either. Like, it dips under 4K a little bit. I was watching some Digital Foundry this morning because the game is out. Or not out. The game review scores are out, and it is reviewing not very good too. I mean, for the clip alone, I feel like I should say that right now, it is nice to have the Metacritic and OpenCritic at 72. Remember a couple weeks ago I said if it's above a 70, I'll get it. But I don't really think that's a fair average yet. When we have IGN scoring it 5 out of 10, GameSpot giving it a 4 out of 10, and other things like that. Like, these are terrible. These are terrible review scores.
Not good.
But we have one more game that came out this week that furthered this conversation of the 30 FPS issue on consoles. And what is that?
Oh, that's a Plague Tale Requiem that caps out at just 30 frames per second on PlayStation 5, 40 frames per second on 120 hertz TVs. This comes from Push Square, saying, well, we were onto a good thing for a moment there, weren't we? Following the news that Gotham Knights, despite scrapping the PS4 version of the game, would run at just 30 frames per second on PS5, we learned that this will also be the case for Asobo Studios' latest A Plague Tale Requiem. And somewhat disappointing trend that perhaps something we will see more of in the future as games become more demanding. While it's true that games are perfectly playable at 30 FPS, 60 frames per second has seemed like the benchmark for the PlayStation 5 up until now. At the very least, we had become accustomed to the graphical performance option for those so inclined, but perhaps we were getting ahead of ourselves. SkillUp also comments and says, it's cool to see developers engaging the topic of 60 frames per second. It helps us learn about why it's often hard to deliver, which SkillUp says he's learned legit a lot about in the past 24 hours, and it lets us reiterate to them that we're okay with most of the trade-offs they list. We just want 60 frames per second as a minimum. That should be the benchmark. And then Paris, or Vicious696, says this: the more we can be educated on the trade-offs of 30 versus 60 frames per second, the more we can be understanding as to why. And I think the issue with this particular instance is, while there is a trade-off typically for the 30 versus 60 frames per second, it's hard to see what the trade-off really is for this game. If we go back to Floor Marty's statement, she says that it's a fully untethered co-op experience in a highly detailed open world, but that only accounts for if you're playing co-op, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, it sounds like from the Digital Foundry video that maybe that's not all it's like quote unquote a highly detailed open world is not as highly detailed or ambitious as
Like
she makes it sound.
There's more under the hood that has to play into this too. There's a reason they canceled the PS4 version as well. Can you imagine, like, if it can only run in 30 frames per second on current gen consoles? Imagine it running.
It would run at like probably 15.
Yeah.
On
right.
last gen.
And I was seeing some Plague's Tale stuff. Well, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you've seen any of the Plague's Tale Requiem like gameplay, but
I haven't seen any of it.
It looks so incredible. 26 frames, like steady 26 for a while, and like that sucks.
I can't do it.
And there's
remember when we were playing Spider-Man and we were talking about this because you were playing in the 4K 30 and I was playing in 30 frames 60 frames 2K or 1080, whatever the trade-off was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't go back. I did the 60 frames and then I did the 4K and I'm like, I can't do the 4K.
Can you visually tell the difference between 60 and 30?
Absolutely, every time.
Me too. There's a lot of people online that have outwardly spoken that they do not see a difference between 30 and 60.
Human eyes see it 60 frames per second.
Well, no, they don't. They don't. They're
Fact
like
check me.
They're like at 20. I think it's like 24 or something, 23 something. Let me make sure.
That's movies.
No, because they're shot at whatever. They're shot that way on purpose because they're like calculated.
No, I see between 30 to 60 frames per second. Okay. So it's not 24 for sure, okay. But I'm also partially wrong.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why. I would love for the devs to be a lot more, just clarify. Like, we cannot do 60 frames per second because of this. Not just because, well, it's not as easy as lowering the resolution. There could be a great reason. They're like, well, on the console hardware that we were provided, it's not like they can change the console hardware. It's like, for our game that we were building before the console hardware were actually released, this is what we were shooting for. This is what we were planning on. And with this limitation, we literally cannot deliver that without sacrificing this. And maybe there's the thing that they would have to sacrifice is so major that they couldn't do it. And I would assume a lot of the devs are unhappy with this too. It might just, it seriously might not be an option for them, you know?
But we don't know what that trade-off is.
I would
that they're
love
sacrificing.
to know, because this could be a thing that comes up a lot with the next couple years of games, especially because I didn't know Plague's Tale was going to be in 30 as well. Like, could be a lot of current gen and PC only games that might be lowered here, which is sad, but we'll have to see.
I don't know. Might be an engine issue.
I mean, we're about to get God of War
like that
in 2 weeks, 3 weeks here. That is going to play in 4K 60 because that's what they said on.
Yep.
And that's a double to triple as detailed world visually that you're seeing. It's not co-op, I'll give you that. But Warzone can run with 100 players dropping into one map in over 60 frames on console. It can, or whatever that is. So, very interesting. I love this. This topic is very interesting to me, the technological side behind it, because I'm not that knowledgeable in like what that really feeds into. So it's interesting. Guys, thank you so much for watching this clip. If you want to listen to the entire podcast, you can go on audio platforms, type in Strictly Casual Checkpoint. It's a little blue box that says Checkpoint in yellow. You can subscribe over there. Or if you want to watch the entire video podcast, you can go on youtube.com/Strictly Casual and become a member and watch the entire video podcast there. Thank you guys so much for watching this clip, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.